On today's show, we talk about how distraction is destroying your jiu-jitsu. Now, this actually starts at an anxiety we all feel but have trouble to articulate, and we unpack that. JT opens it up about his battles with Instagram. That's right, I'm being vulnerable. Joey also goes philosophically deeper on how connection and focus can really help you pay attention at jiu-jitsu. And lastly, we get into how you can be more relaxed and focused and get more out of your BJJ class. Let's jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Distraction is destroying your ability to learn jiu-jitsu. And it's coming in a particular form. Now, we often distract ourselves in different ways. And the biggest thing we're trying to get away from, Joe, is the fear of death.
Oh.
No. Yeah, we've started there.
Bro, that's a bit full on, isn't it?
It is a bit full on to start.
I was just hungry, you know?
No, it was the fear of death, our impending doom, our mortality. I've been reading a book which is called Mortals, and it talks about how society is set up basically to distract us from the thought that we're going to die.
Right.
And if we look at the modern social media era of sorts, it is just the ultimate distraction. It's entertaining, it's a good time, but we talk about doom scrolling, right? It's just, I'm doing this thing, right? I wasn't doom scrolling. Joe said I was. I was actually spying on someone who's stronger than me and hating them, but I will catch them eventually. But here's the thing.
Hate scrolling.
Different to doom.
Totally different.
It's more proactive.
It's a completely different negative emotion.
It's great, actually. It's very therapeutic.
To bathe your nervous system in it.
It's therapeutic. I mean, you know. I think that the more important point here is that we often have things in our lives which occupy our thoughts. When we get to jiu-jitsu, we're not there. Like, you even if you're there and you're really switched on, you can often see someone who is, constantly checking their phone, or they're kind of staring off into space. You can see they're probably running the checklist for that night's dinner or whatever
Wait, you didn't finish your point. You started introducing this book, Mortals, which to me sounds like a manual from a kid's fantasy game. But please continue.
No, not at all. It's been a hard read.
But
I usually read really well. Like, I can usually pump a book. This book has been hard to read because it's made me look really deeply on how society is structured, and it makes you realize just how much of what we do is there for us to not think about we're going to die.
Right.
Like, so much of it. And what it's saying is it actually spoils our ability to live our lives.
Uh-huh.
Like, because we're constantly thinking forward, we miss what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest problem. The biggest conclusion I got from this book is like, the biggest antidote to this fear, this underlying sense of anxiety, which people often experience in different forms, just confronting our own mortality, is just to be present and actually just be like, how good's this? We got it right now. What I have right now is great. Being present, being grateful is, and it's usually mentioned in forms of meditation and gratitude practice. It sounds woo-woo, but it's actually your ability to just pay attention to what's happening right now. Not think forward, not regret in the past, none of that. Just be here right now. And
so can you, when it says society is set up, is it implying there's a deliberate action to try and distract us from that? Or is that just
yeah. Like everything,
our culture
money,
does?
Work, all of this, like it's all just trying to give us this artificial sense of purpose, which is not real.
Right.
Like it's just, what I'm doing matters. Does it? Like, it matters if you say it matters, right? And you can find meaning in anything. But what made me think about this, how this relates back to jiu-jitsu, is we are very commonly distracting ourselves, even though we want to be at jiu-jitsu. Even though we spend money, we put the time, we reorganize our lives, we get there and we're still thinking about, I didn't send that email. Shit, did I turn the stove off? shit, am I going to burn my house down? You know, like this.
Shit, no, wait. Ola does the cooking.
Yeah,
We're
that's
good.
right. I don't have to worry about that. But actually, what I do is I do unplug things, because she will say, "Hang on, did I leave the sandwich press on?" I'm like, "No." I always switch it off and pull the plug out.
Oh, wow.
As a rule, to remind myself,
To save yourself that mental
so that
space.
you don't like when you're driving in the car, like, ah!
Yeah.
You know, because that's the thing. Like, because we have so much going on, so much distraction, it is hard to focus in and lock in when you're at jiu-jitsu. I mean, do you find this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I used to have it a lot in the nighttime classes.
Yeah.
Where you race there from a busy day at work. I would be handling, like doing calls in the car on the way there, get up a quick Instagram post, you know, be responding to people on Instagram, be recording for Instagram or WhatsApp or some shit as I'm walking into like filming content as I'm walking to there. Hey, what's going on? Yeah. And then it's like you don't just switch to, okay, now I'm focused.
Mindful.
It's like it kind of bleeds into the thing. Of course, you know, once Adam passes your guard and there's big hips coming for your head.
Jesus Christ.
You can't help but only think about that. But through all the 45 minutes leading up to that, yeah, huge.
I think part of the reason why jiu-jitsu folks love rolling so much is you don't have a choice on being mindful. When it's rolling time, you're in there.
Yeah.
But when the coach is showing a technique, maybe you don't really like it. Maybe it's not part of your game. You're like, I wonder what's happening for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, am I a bit hungry? Oh, my knee hurts. Have I got arthritis? Maybe it's cancer. You know, like your brain just goes into a different dimension.
I had what did I have the other day? I think I had a cough.
Yeah.
For like half a day, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's cancer.
So I got the black lung pop. Yeah, and it's just, this is what our brain does. Like, our brain is a problem creating, thought creating machine. It's constantly trying to solve problems. And if there's not a problem in front of you, it'll invent a problem for you to be concerned about. And the thing about it is, the times when I've had some of my best jiu-jitsu classes is when I was my most relaxed. Not super caffeinated, not here to perform, here to bang, none of that. Just, I was like, oh, I think I'll just go to this class. Maybe it was like afternoon or whatever. And it's just so, the ability to be relaxed and not have expectation meant I was way more present.
Right.
I didn't have any expectations. I just kind of wandered in and I was able to absorb what the was going on. And I walked away like, I just learned some jiu-jitsu. Revolutionary. Imagine that, going to class. Because this has been a huge problem for many people in jiu-jitsu. And I know I've had this where I go to class and then after class, I'm like, I can't even barely tell you what we did. Like, yeah, all right, Lockie showed something about K-guard. I don't remember any of the details. Like, I'm going to have to follow up with him afterwards and write some notes because I have forgotten. All I remember is Ben Hodgkinson just beat the shit out of me. Yeah. And I want to kill that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's often, oh, I got armbarred again. I need to do armbar defense. You know, like, it's just.
Had a bunch of hard rolls. Don't remember what happened in them.
But it's all hard. A blur. Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to distract you from the immensity of today's episode, but this is important. You need to know that today's show sponsor is the Bulletproof for BJJ app, an app designed by JT and I specifically for you, a grappler. No matter what level of training experience you are at, this app has been designed to help you build a strong, durable, robust body that can perform well on and off the mats. Now, you can start a 14-day free trial today and no payment details are required. All you got to do to start is go to the App Store, search for Bulletproof for BJJ and jump on the app. When you get in there, you'll actually notice that you can get coached directly by JT and myself. So if you got any questions, you want technique feedback, or you want some advice on which program is right for you, just ask us and we'd be happy to help. Hope to see you there.
And so this is the difficulty, that we get into the habit of the information consumption as a form of distraction and whatever it is, whether for you it's email or maybe it's Twitter or Instagram, whatever it is, when it actually comes to sitting down and listening to another person, whether it's your business partner, your podcast partner, it could be your wife or your husband, it could just be your kid. And you're sitting there and your kid's trying to tell you something meaningful and you're like, I wish I get to the point of the story. You're like, you know how kids can be like, and there was a dinosaur, and then I saw my friend, he had a blue shirt. You're like, bro, pretty sure it wasn't blue, but all right. Like, if you could ramble a bit less, 4-year-old, Jesus, get to a point. This is the hardest thing. We have been conditioned to be impatient, and this means that we always skip ahead in our minds. You know, I mentioned this before, a comedian called Des Bishop, and he talks about being mindful. And he's Irish, but he's Irish American, and he talks about how back in the days he was a guru. He was a mind. He's like, I didn't even know it. Mindfulness. It's like you're at the bus stop, you just sat there, no phone. Mindfulness, you know. And he just talks about how life was. Yeah. Because there were times in life where you couldn't do anything. You
Idle time.
You just had to sit there and be bored, and that caused you to pay attention.
Yeah.
So
shit, I remember sitting on a bus, used to roll up get the ticket.
Yeah.
From the bus, they print out a little ticket when you pay with cash.
Oh yeah.
And then I'd roll it up, and I had this technique to roll them super tight.
Yeah, yeah.
And roll that shit for 30 minutes while the bus is getting to the city.
Do it.
Like
what?
You know, whereas now it's like I'd be checking emails, doing banking and
productive.
And just not rolling up a bus ticket. That's what I'd be not doing.
That's what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess
being bored, there's something to that.
There's great space for you to be imaginative and creative.
Yeah.
It leaves room for you to have an original thought or a form a conclusion. And this is another thing. I talked about it before with reading. I think his name is not Philip Sue. Anyway, he was a med student. He's now a medical doctor, but he specializes in helping people learning. And he talks about digestion time. You read, but that's not actually when you put it all together. You got to go away and give yourself a little bit of time to process for you to make things connect. And often, you know, when people say, hey, you should sleep on it, it gives you a chance to just
process.
Go relax your mind and then actually form your own conclusions. And look, that's kind of maybe a separate discussion, but really I believe that for most of us, because we are told and we're conditioned to fill our time, we get on this kind of hyper chatter, hyper speed, go attitude. But when you get to jiu-jitsu, even though we use jiu-jitsu to slow things down, which is like why we love it, you have to slow things down before you get there. That's what I want to get to, really.
Yeah, I agree. There's the enforced mindfulness that comes with a hard roll, but preceding that is all this other important time where your jiu-jitsu should be improving, and most of us would not be making the most of that time.
No, and I freely admit, like I am the person who's chugging a double espressos and trying to get there. I want to get there early, but I also know that me getting there early, I have my mobility routine and my calf's a bit tired, and like I'm so preoccupied. I'm not getting there early to just chill. I have so much of an agenda, and it's almost like a performance anxiety. Like, could I go to that class and not have a double espresso? Sure, I've already had 10. You know, I don't need to have another one, but I'm so like, I don't want to perform badly. I don't want to show up and get my ass kicked.
Do you do double espresso in the evening classes?
Or a pre-workout.
But so you will?
Yeah.
Even for a night class?
6 p.m., yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, folks. But it honestly comes from a form of performance anxiety. Yeah. I don't want to show up and do a bad job.
Right.
I don't want to not show up.
Yeah.
Because that will probably keep me awake harder than the caffeine.
Yeah, wow.
Just lying there at night, just like, God, not again. You know, it's difficult. It's difficult for me in that way. It's difficult for me to have a relaxed attitude towards jiu-jitsu. It's like I care too much.
Yeah.
Open mat's different because I'm just like, we're all having fun. It doesn't matter what happens. But with a class, I think, especially if everybody's, Anyway, distraction. I have found, this has been my biggest conclusion recently. It is too convenient. That's what the phone is, like it's right there. So it's not like you don't have a book or you don't have if you're sitting still and you got nothing to do, you always got your phone, right?
Yep.
And that means a lot of different things. That could mean Tinder. It could mean whatever. It could mean your favorite website. It could be gaming. You could be playing some retro gamer shit.
Could just be browsing Pornhub. Just be like, I'm just going to see what the new uploads look like today.
Yeah, what are those thumbnails like?
Just want to keep a finger on the pulse.
Yeah, finger in the pulse. Get that pulse. It's a crazy thing. I had looked at my screen time, and I was like, shit, 3 hours a day? That seems like a lot. And then I had a day where I was communicating a lot through Instagram, messaging folks. But still, I'm on Instagram a lot. And I was like, I did 5 hours on a given day? Like, how much of my day am I on my phone? I got to stop this shit. So I did actually delete Instagram off my phone a little while ago. And I was using it on my laptop. And I realized Instagram is not as much fun on your desktop. It's just not. It's not the same. You don't get the same.
I mean, no one's surprised.
There's
right?
no swiping.
Yeah.
You know, they make it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not meant to be as engaging. And anyway, it's just I was trying to find a way to separate Instagram from my phone, and I realized how much like emails. There's just so much of my life is living in my phone, but so much of my attention is living in my phone, and I wasn't paying attention to shit around me.
Right.
Not paying attention properly to my parents. My sisters, when I get out to hang out with them, even I've noticed like Ola, she's very much in her phone. I've got to make her put her phone down so we can sit down and talk to each other, you know? And so I was like, you know what? I need to get like a dumb phone. I need to get a phone without functionality. I need to get a phone that I can text and call from, but not access apps. Like I need to keep apps and tech-based stuff for laptops so I can be more like focused.
Draw boundaries.
Yeah, because at the moment it's a fucking blur.
Dude, flip phones are a thing back. They've come back, haven't they?
They have come back, and even like Nokia's bringing back like a new version of like what was a 3310.
Yeah.
Because people are like, it's them up.
Yeah. I can feel that.
Yeah, and so oftentimes we don't think too deeply about this shit. We just go, whatever. Like, I guess I just don't learn good. You're like, no, there's contributing factors as to why sometimes classes you absorb them better and then sometimes you don't. And so what I wanted to get to with this is, in the same way, we've talked about this before relevant to sleep, like not looking at your phone too close to bed if you can, like giving yourself an hour or a little bit more to not be stressing your brain out. For me, I generally bore myself to sleep with some kind of a book. No, I read and it helps downregulate the brain. It could be, even though I know you might be checking like, who submitted who, what's that heel hook, holy shit, before you go to class because you think I'm G'ing my brain up for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and advocate here, maybe in a not very popular way, but not to look at your phone just before jiu-jitsu. Like be thinking about jiu-jitsu. Like in the same way you might masturbate with not looking at porn, just using your imagination.
Right, yep.
This may be a healthier way to do it.
Mazzo, like a true stoic.
Yeah, like they did, like Marcus Aurelius used to do.
That's right.
Like a Caesar would masturbate, you know? Like back in the days, just raw dog. No, he'd just be looking at scrolls and statues. No, it's just like one of those things. Like it's funny how having to use your own imagination is harder when we're used to just consuming the done thing for us through the phone. In today's show, we're talking about distraction and how that can negatively impact your jiu-jitsu. You know what else can negatively impact your jiu-jitsu? Dehydration. Really, dehydration can be responsible for taking you down 30 to 40%. That's a lot. Now, what we can do is we can help you overcome that with Sodi. Sodi is today's podcast sponsor, and they give us the best of combination of sodium, potassium, and magnesium to keep us hydrated. Now, it's very easy for you to get your hands on some Sodi. Just go to sodi.com.au and you can get 15% off with the code Bulletproof15. Get yourself hydrated and improve your jiu-jitsu today. And this leads me to the second book. This is how it all kind of parcels together. This fear of death, because I would say, I can't remember what the context was. The meme is like, how often do you think about how many times a week do you think about the Roman Empire or something? It's meant to figure out if you're a toxic male or something, like, like men who are really into the Roman Empire, I think about death all the time. Like, it is so present in my mind. And this comes from Stoicism too, like not taking the day for granted, that it could be your last day, and this is meant to work in a good way because it makes you be more present and bring more quality to the stuff you're doing. That's the upside. There's a great book called The Score Takes Care of Itself, which is by a famous NFL, one of the most famous coaches of all time, Bill Walsh. Now, I'm not sure if he wrote the whole thing, but it's his words. And really, he talks about small details, how like looking at the scoreboard doesn't change the score. It's all the small deliberate actions you put together, which really means the score will be better. And so the way you do that is by focusing. Like, if you can't, it sounds very simple, but like if you don't tie your laces right, or if your cleats don't fit well, you're going to get blisters, you can't run, you can't be fast. So that's a detail you got to pay attention to. And so he talks about how he took a team that was terrible and turned them into one of the greatest championship teams of all time. And it's all about being present and focusing on these smaller details, because eventually that is what causes your jiu-jitsu to be good. In the same way, in your life, if you do take a little bit more time and be a bit more methodical about stuff, your life will get better as well. Because I'm sure you've all experienced the opposite, and I've done this too, where you're rushing, you're trying to pack everything, and you're like, I'm going to take my lunch today, and you leave it on the counter, or you buy a coffee and you put it on the roof of your car, you get in the car and you go to drive, and then you're like halfway down the freeway, you pull up at lights and someone's like, and you're like, oh, still there. All right. More caffeine, more distraction. Like, we've all done the dumb shit where we've locked the keys in the car, whatever it might be. We've all been there.
Yeah,
we've been super distracted.
I think about like I think like this kind of feeling comes to me sometimes when I'm just cramming shit into my day unnecessarily. And a classic example is like, I'm coming to the gym to train on a Saturday. Let's say it's a Saturday morning, which I don't normally do, and I'm a bit late getting out of the house, and I'm like, I'm going to the gym to train, so I'm going to go stop at the cafe and get a coffee first. Yep. And I'm running like, I've got 5 minutes before the session starts. And I'm like, yeah, I'll just get to the cafe. Like, it'll take a couple of minutes for them to give me a coffee in there. And I'll get to the cafe and there'll be a couple people in front, and then I'll order and it'll be 2 minutes past the hour, and I'm like, I'm running late. And I'm like, I've got to get the coffee though. I've got to get the coffee. It's 6 past, get in the car, get to the gym. And I'm like, all this stress I've created just because I convinced myself I had to get a coffee beforehand. Yeah. Or I could have just gone, nah, it's a bit tight, I'll just get a coffee later. Yeah. But I feel like we do that to ourselves, and then you convince yourself, no, I need this thing. And it's almost that same idea of like, I'll just squeeze in a bit more work, I'll just check Instagram, I'll just send another email. And you're loading this shit in, and you're like, it's going to create mental bandwidth for me, because if I get it done, I'm going to feel great. But all it does is just eat up your mental bandwidth. Stress
you out more. Yeah. And yeah, it's a false economy. We've all done it where like you do something to save you time, but then you're like, oh, this shortcut will work, and then they've closed the road. You got to turn around and it's cost you time, or you're speeding to work and then you cop a ticket, and then the ticket's eating your whole paycheck from that shift or more. Yeah. All these things, because why do we have this urgency? Because we're all going to die. And that bothers us for good reason. It's hard to really get your head around. Now, if you have faith and you have religion and you have a belief in afterlife, reincarnation, whatever it might be, that's awesome. And I'm happy for you. I do not have that same faith. So I feel the shortness of life, the crushing pressure of the passing of time. And so there is something in me specifically, I have a fear of being mediocre. I have a fear of like not doing my best. I have a fear that like I'm going to die with dreams in my chest. Right. Like there's something I care about, and I'm not going to be brave enough to say and do the things I feel I should, which will ultimately result in regret. And that's what they talk about a lot of the time when people get older, they come to the end of their life, they talk about what they should have done or what they would have spent more time doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time people are like, I would have worked less.
Yeah.
I would have spent more time with my family. I would have moved to Mexico and started a weed farm and just done movement.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time with the connection between the distraction, busyness, overloading piece and the distraction from the reality that we're going to die. Like, draw that.
This book, like, and you don't have to read this book, but essentially it's saying that we commonly do things in the name of keeping us alive longer or living our life better or whatever, but it costs us a lot. We do things that we think will improve our legacy or people will remember, and it's not a nihilistic book. It's just saying that's just not true. Like if you look more closely at like your own family tree, like what was your great grandmother's family name? What was your great grandmother? You don't know. Like you don't really pay attention unless you're really switched onto your family tree. You don't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Everything you do.
What's the point there?
So what I'm saying here is that for the best part, if people take time to slow down and not be distracted and not be caught up in all these things, the concept of or the understanding that we will die is unsettling, and people do different things to process that. And an extension of that, the distraction piece, is like, why is it important to be productive? Why is it important to send another email? Like, why are all these things so important? Like, really, like I said, I did say this at the start, and I wasn't jumping too far ahead, was the antidote to the idea is that, okay, life is short, is the enjoyment of the experience of what life can be if you can enjoy it, provided whatever your situation is, right?
Yeah.
So the key to that is presence and focus. And this is, my parallel is the same with jiu-jitsu. Part of the reason why people are struggling to learn jiu-jitsu and the enjoyment in jiu-jitsu and getting better and being there is the distraction. And this is a carryover and a habit that just comes from humans scrambling to deal with their own mortality. And it ruins the thing which is awesome, which is jiu-jitsu and just having fun and learning. And it's just habitual. It's just something that we just take for granted as part of our lives, but it's actually f***ing up the thing that we truly enjoy.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not an easy, and you might say that that's a f***ing stretch. I'm making that stretch. But think about it, right? If you think about your worst jiu-jitsu class, you probably rushed, you were probably late. There's a lot of factors as to why it wasn't a good class.
Oh yeah, I definitely. It's just drawing the connection between that and the fear of death that I'm like, well, I question that a little bit.
Joey fears no death.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, say in the time, is it not just that we're too busy because we just
but why are we busy? Like,
well, because say if we go back to the 90s, right, when we were kids,
sure,
and you're sitting on the bus, rolling the bus ticket,
yeah,
you weren't distracting yourself then. Like people.
No, but you didn't have the option.
But that's what
people have the option.
But that's what I mean. I wasn't sitting there having an existential dread of dying.
But what they're saying is young kids now are having more angst, and they have the distractions. They have the phones. The distraction isn't making problems go away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how. I guess I don't know how young you were when you first became aware of death.
I think, I can't remember. But I think the cause of, I just feel the cause of the distraction is the fact that it's all with us now. Devices and shit, it's in our face.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's kind of my feeling, is that, like, whereas if that was gone and it's just all we really have is the magazine on the table, the person sitting here, oh, someone in that room, oh, the phone rings, go up,
Sure.
So yeah, just my feeling about that death connection piece.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe this is something I'm fixated on, but I am going to make the move for a dumb phone. I am going to try and separate myself from the apps, at least in the phone format. And this isn't even about jiu-jitsu. This is just about life. Like being better as a listener, being more present in general.
And that's a great point by JT. Now, guys, you can get the Bulletproof for BJJ app when you go to the App Store. Get it now. Use it daily, all the time. Use it.
All the time.
Awesome.
All the time.
Bro, what the f*** are you doing, dickhead?
just imploded our business, you fucking idiot.
Bro, the podcast comes through the app and shit.
What are you doing, bro?
Anyway, guys, that concludes the Bulletproof BJJ podcast forever.
No, bro. No one's gonna make that move. I mean, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking
nice thought.
about doing the same, but to have two phones.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of like because it is a
Like
tool
a
for
work
work. Yeah,
phone.
and content and connectivity and all that. And then when it's like whatever 5 p.m. that the work's off, that phone gets off in the drawer, and
Yeah.
I'm back to playing Snake all evening and not talking to my family.
Perfect.
Sorry, Leo, I got a super long snake.
Top score, baby. Perfect. Well, there it is, folks. If you can find a way to disconnect, I think it can help your jiu-jitsu. It can help you focus. And if you like this kind of content and you want to share it with friends, what you can do is actually talk to someone. You can tell them. Word of mouth is actually the best way to spread a podcast. Tell a friend, but also, seeing as you're here, like, subscribe, all the good things. We appreciate it.